just listen to everything she's got to say also. And hopefully we'll be having these guys back on a regular basis. So keep sharing with your friends and people you know and other songwriters. I know we got a handful of songwriters out there today, quite a few actually. So anyway, Deanna Walker, everybody. Thanks, Deanna.
Hello, that was so sweet. Well, you were the sweetest. Talk about somebody who is doing so much for songwriters and has for so long. I mean, you and Doak have gone like far above and beyond in helping all of us. Everybody really appreciates it. So I teach songwriting at Vanderbilt. I want to tell you a little bit about my classes. No, I'll do a little bit of a presentation. We can talk a little bit, and if anybody has questions, you can ask. So I teach a number of songwriting classes at Vanderbilt, and I teach an evening class called the Blair Hit Songwriter Series. And we're doing that class now on Zoom, of course, but fortunately it works actually really, really great on Zoom. And if you want to check it out, actually, let me, I will put in the chat a link. Sorry. Stop it. Okay, I'll put a link to my podcast, and then these podcasts are from the chat from the class directly, so you'll know exactly what's going on if you check out those podcasts. I've got a whole bunch of them, and in that Blair Hit Songwriter Series, we have huge hit songwriters, publishers, producers, music industry professionals every Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's a pretty intimate crowd, like it's 10 to 20 people. And so you really have a chance to ask a lot of questions of all of the huge stars, and you get a chance to, like 4 times a semester, we do song critiques. So we've had song critiques this semester already with Eric Hurt of Empire Publishing, with Chelsea Kent, Work Tape Junkie Management. We are having Cliff Aldrich of Downtown Publishing, and we're going to have Rick and I do a song critique night. And I will say that I think Rick and I really do some amazing critiques. Anyway, and so, but we also have, you know, most of the classes are just in-depth, couple-hour interviews with some of these people who, you know, with great songwriters. We dig into how they write, how they learn to get better, how they got to be more and more creative, how they got to, like, you know, what they did networking wise and business wise to get better and stronger and to grow their careers. So we'll talk about those things. You know, we talk with different people in different aspects of the music industry, like talk with 2 women that's coming Tuesday night who are both high-level label executives, one with One Entertainment, one with CIG in Atlanta, which is a huge hip-hop and rap label, and One Entertainment's just a little bit more gospel. And we're going to talk in the spring with a guy named Ian Galdi. He's like works as a manager with Nice Life, and Nice Life is Lizzo's management company. So, you know, we'll talk to kind of people in various aspects of the music business to see what they have to say about what artists and songwriters need to be doing. So anyway, that class is super inexpensive. It's like $300 for 15 weeks of class, 2 hours each. So it's almost nothing. And so I really encourage you guys to come. If you have questions about it, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat. And you can ask me any questions that you have about it, and I can connect you. We're still taking people for this semester as well. So if anybody wants to jump in, and they'll prorate the fee. So is there a way if anybody can ask questions if they have them? Would it be through the chat, or would people ordinarily just turn their mics on?
If you're looking out into the crowd, if somebody raises their hand above their head, you'll see a little hand pop up above their head. And if
Okay,
you
I got
see
it.
that,
Okay.
there'll be somebody asking a question. Again,
Okay.
because earlier we had a lot of things going on with the mics. I was just trying to keep people from doing too much
I
so they
gotcha.
didn't have echo
Of
stuff
course.
too much.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, well, let me know if anybody has any questions. So one of the things I was going to talk to you guys about right now is I was going to talk about the use of physical details in songs. And so I also teach college classes that adults from the community can attend for a nominal fee. They're like $400 or something, where the college students, the Vanderbilt students, are paying like $6,000 for the same thing and getting credit. But anyway, I don't get a chance to teach the kind of things in the evening class that I normally teach during the day with the college students, just because we're interview focused. So if there are room in those college classes, people are welcome to take them. So one of the things that we talk a lot about in my songwriting class, talk about the way that people use physical details in songs. So, I'll have them go through and write an exercise where they talk about a really important moment in their lives. And so it might be their first kiss, it might be their first broken heart, it might be something crazy that happened to them. But the purpose of talking about some of the first things that happen to you, like your first kiss or whatever, or your first broken heart, or any of those things, have a level of emotional intensity to them that make it easy to remember, easy to reconnect with those feelings, easy to remember the details around them. And if you start writing about those physical details, it's amazing how much will come back to you. Like sometimes in really, really vivid detail, things you would have thought that you might have forgotten. So if you take a moment to say the moment when that person broke up with you or whatever, right in that minute, you describe in detail all, and this is aside from the actual song that you're writing, but you describe everything that you see in the room. Like if you look in my office right now, you can see so many different things. Even in this little camera, there's plenty of things to look at and plenty of things to talk about. So the point that I want to make to people generally is that if we write an overabundance of descriptions, then we pick out the ones to use in our songs that actually have emotional significance. So you pick out the details that actually enhance the character, that set the tone for what it is that you're trying to say. And you as a writer have a lot of power to amplify what it is that you think that's going on in the scene that could be the emotional message you're trying to get across. So for example, let's just say you were in an office, and this office is on, say, the floor of a Manhattan apartment building. Manhattan office building. You'd expect a certain kind of person to be in there. You'd expect to see certain things. So if you look in the room and, you might that room and you might see no pictures of family. Now, this is all just stuff I'm going to make up, okay? But you might not see any pictures of family. You might see overly clean, very orderly desk. Might see, the kind of furniture that looks like somebody invested a lot of money into this place. You might see really cold colors. Those, there are a lot of different things that you might see if what you were setting up was that this is not a happy place to be. You could look at the same room and you could see that somebody has a picture of their wife or husband and their kids. They have pictures up everywhere. maybe they're a little messy, or maybe there are sort of papers everywhere. That those things can indicate a lot about the character's personality as well. Like maybe they care enough about their family to keep those pictures up and to make sure they can always see them. So like maybe that's a detail you bring out if you want to show that this person is someone to whom family really matters to them. Without the pictures of the family, maybe what you're trying to show is that this person is super ambitious and family is not necessarily their priority. Now, it doesn't mean that if somebody doesn't have any pictures up of their family, it doesn't mean they don't care about them. But what it does mean is that in terms of setting a scene, we can use that to focus in on what kind of character we want to describe. So then if we continue along the physical detail road and we go to look at the person, let's see. I mean, it can be a man or a woman. And I always ask my students, what kind of person is this? What do they look like? And they always say, well, they're wearing a fantastic suit, like they're wearing an incredible suit. They look amazing, every little detail put into place. And then we talk about how if that person has, is completely buttoned up, every cufflink, every hair, everything exactly in place, what will we say about that person's character? So there are a lot of ways to lean into it. And again, all these are assumptions. We don't know anything about anybody based on how they look, right? These are just things we can play into a little bit. So what we can assume if that person is, almost too perfect, is that maybe they're really controlling, maybe they're really insecure, maybe their need to make everything look perfect is masking, a real fear that they're not good enough, a real fear that other people don't see them in the way they want to be seen, an effort to control how they want to be seen. So that is if we are just assuming that someone might be a more difficult kind of person. Because another thing we could assume by looking at that is that this is just someone who really cares about their appearance and doing the best they can in every situation. So, how do you want this person to come across? Are they super ambitious and pretty controlling, maybe not that nice of a person? You want them to come across as somebody who's a family man or woman who are just really, really hard to support their family, job that maybe they don't love. Like you get to choose the physical details that emphasize who that person is. So one of the things that I like to say about this, that in having this power, you're careful. You have to be careful what you choose and not be too random about it. One of the things I'll tell you in Nashville is that you need more furniture in that song, and not that they're wrong for saying that. Generally, we pretty much all need more imagery in our songs. You almost can't get away from that. It used to be that the way songs were written were like very heavy imagery and verses and more emotional type languages and choruses. But these days, the choruses, although they have more emotional language, still are loaded with imagery for the most part, whether you're in pop or country. And I'm in writing sessions a lot. I'm signed to Cobalt and to a company out of Germany, and I'm in writing sessions a lot where what gets said a lot is we got to get more images. We got to get more images, right? But going back to what I said about Nashville, the whole idea that you got to get more furniture in that song isn't exactly right, because you don't choose a red truck. Red truck because it's an aspect of that girl's personality that you're chasing after, So every little detail is an opportunity to open the door to who somebody is. On all of this, on this note also, setting as inspiration for creativity, like it is truly amazing what your mind will do if you just create a setting. Like, you know, probably lots of you out there have done the thing where you see somebody in an airport and then you make up their life story, even though you don't know anything about it, but you just make it up, which is kind of what we do with songwriting all the time. Well, if you see a dirt floor house in Appalachia, then you can ask yourself, who is in that house? You know? And then you can picture, well, is it a man who lives alone? Is it a man and a woman who are older? Is it a younger couple with a whole family of kids? You know, it could be anything, but you can start to just let your imagination run and then just ask yourself, what situation are they in? Are they happy? You know, are they struggling? Are they under a lot of pressure? You know, and then you can pick out a character from there to really focus on how are they interpreting their life? What conclusions are they drawing? So you can really use setting to just let your imagination run for a while. And one of the things I do a lot with my students is I try to give them time, just let their imagination run free, because a lot of times, you know, when we're writing songs, we're not that our imaginations aren't running free, but we're in the song box. And so the song box is a really narrow place. We don't have we use our imaginations, but we don't have very much time to get our point across. And as soon as we get into songwriting mode, we're considering rhyme, we're considering all the things that Rick was saying, we're considering the internal rhyme, we're considering the line length, we're considering how we're using contrast. You know, we're creating lots of little boxes that we have to fit into. Like once you write a first verse, you've obviously created a verse box. You have to fit into that for your second verse. You know, so craft is obviously trying to meet our imagination in songwriting, but sometimes it's good to just step aside from that box and use your imagination and let it run free for a while. I will have my students do a lot of free writing around describing places, describing people, describing situations, you know, describing the before, during, and after of a moment. So, you know, before a moment, before this event happened, before I fell in love with you, for example, I was this person. Then I fell in love with you and this happened to me, and now I'm this person. Like all stories in general are stories of transformation, their character arcs. You know, I was here, you broke up with me, now I'm here, right? There's some kind of development that way. So anyway, you can, starting with setting, develop characters, you can imagine, well, what did the character go through? Like, depending on what happened, what did they go through? And then what conclusions did they draw based on what happened to them? Because those conclusions are usually the title of your song. So you can brainstorm a lot of titles also just by letting your imagination run free. Like I said, those titles are the conclusions most of the time to, you know, this happened to me, and because of that, I have concluded this thing that I came here to tell you. So a lot of times titles are conclusions. You know, if you can't use physical detail, like I always do a lecture every semester on the song Desperado, and Desperado is so interesting because it's such a brilliantly written song. And if you look at it, all the physical details, for the most part, so they're metaphorical, they're slightly more poetic. And what that allows the writer to do in that case, concentrate on the emotional associations that come with all of that metaphor. I mean, Desperado itself is a metaphor. And so if you think about that, Desperado is cowboy outlaw of the Old West, And there are a whole lot of physical associations that go with the cowboy outlaw, like what this person looks like. But behind all those physical associations are, what is this person's character like? And so, we can get the essence just from the word. We can get a lot about the essence of that character. And, once we explore it a little bit, we realize, okay, so this character is a stubborn, hardened, probably somewhat self-destructive, somewhat destructive to others kind of person, probably not living their life necessarily in a good way. They've got somebody who cares enough about them to say, hey, I don't think you're living right over here. They don't really want to hear it. It's a human story. We've all kind of been that person who's tried to talk to somebody who didn't want to hear it. We've all been that person someone else tried to talk to who didn't want to hear it. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make here is that desperado is a metaphor. And if you go look at the lyric of the song later, you'll see there are no literal physical places being described. There's outriding fences, there's open the gate, but those are in the class of the metaphor, so they can seem like physical places, they call to mind physical places, but they're also in the world of the metaphor, and they have that metaphorical meaning. Anyway, so that's a kind of song where all of the details come, like, don't you draw the queen of diamonds, she'll beat you if she's able. The queen of hearts is always your best bet. Like, what you picture there is a sort of gambling saloon type of scenario. And that saloon isn't described anywhere in the song, but that's what you picture because it comes free flowing from the word desperado. Like, you're not going to picture Atlantic City. You're going to picture, like I said, some kind of saloon. You're not going to picture Las Vegas. And that's because the metaphor itself was so strong as to draw the picture for you. So in that case, you don't need literal physical details, but the metaphorical physical details will do the same job. When they say you've been out riding fences, that's a really good way to see that person is disconnected from society. They're sort of out on the perimeter of life, and they're not committing one way or another. That's a brilliant metaphor because it has two meanings. It has the out on the perimeter, but it also means you're not putting your foot down on one side or the other. Anyway, but outriding fences is a perfect detail to show what this person is like and to give us a sense of their character. So they don't necessarily have to be literal physical details. They can be metaphorical ones. Anyway, ultimately, what we're trying to do is spend enough time before we write a song searching out our characters and our settings. Not every song has a setting, but most of them do. Like, searching all of these things out in depth so that when we actually write the song, we have a lot to draw from, and we can make the choices that actually really matter. I feel like a lot of times young writers jump into writing the song too soon and they haven't explored it. I learned a term from Rick called emotional history, and taught me a long time ago that what we need to be doing is writing an emotional history of our characters. And I'm just adding to that, we also need to write a physical history of our characters. And then we have a lot of information, so we can choose the good stuff. We can let go of the things that don't matter. And, we can stay away from gratuitous details. I mean, I love country music, but I feel like this, shotgun seat, cut off shorts, all of that stuff is just, those are gratuitous details. I don't understand personally why they still work on country radio, like why the same details again and again and again don't seem to bore people, but apparently they don't. But unique picture that somebody else hasn't added. I mean, here's what I know for sure. You take a song to a publisher and it uses all the same details that everybody else has used. They're not, in all likelihood, going to be impressed with the song that you're bringing. It's not going to be fresh enough. There's not going to be enough newness to it. So But there's something about some of these cliched things that work too. So I would encourage you also, if you're going to use some of these cliched physical details, also try to find always the 1 or 2 or 3 fresh details that nobody's heard before. And that's what impresses a publisher. You know, that's what gets them excited when you figured out a way to say something nobody else has said yet. And that's also the beauty of a great metaphor too, that allows you to say some things in ways that people have never said before. So that's a huge, huge help too, reaching out those metaphors before you get started. So anyway, spending some time away from the page, not writing your song too soon, trying to create a larger backdrop for the characters and the situation before you get into it will go a long way in helping you write better, more unique songs. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, I think that's probably the best place to stop for right now. But if anybody has any questions, you've got my email. And if you'd like to ask me any questions about my classes, I'd love to talk to you about them. And I think I will wrap up there unless there's something anybody wants to talk about. Oh, thanks for the clapping. That was awesome. That was fun to watch avatars clap. That's really cool. Okay. Well, everybody, it was really fun to talk with you, and it's fun to see your super cool internal world, Will.
Thanks so much. Well, thanks for being here. And again, we'll be looking forward to having you back again. And again, give her a big clap, guys. And thanks again, both to you and Rick, for all the amazing stuff you do. We appreciate you big time.